we have a pod, and sometimes when you want to debug your application, or you want to just pretty much just see whether things are working, and since we haven't learned about services, if you want to access the application that runs within your pod, you can do it using the kubectl port forward. So you've seen this before. So here, kubectl, and then port dash and then forward, and then the pod name. So hello dash and then world. And then in here we say that we want to basically from the host, you can pick any port. So if you say localhost 8080, you want to map that to port 80 for our container. So here, let me actually show you. So if I press Control C, and then if I say kubectl describe and then pod and then hello world, and in here if I scroll up, so I just want you to see, have a look. So the port in here, so this is the port that, and we only have one, right? So one container, and basically this is the port that it's listening on, right? So this is what we're saying. So when we say, so let me just clear this again. So when we say kubectl and then port dash forward hello dash world, and then port 8080 on the host will map to port 80. So here if I press enter, you can see that forwarding from and then localhost 8080 to and then 80 inside of the container. Now here, if I open up my web browser and then type localhost 8080, there we go. You can see that we have our awesome application, right? So if I go back to my terminal, and here if I cancel this, go back, reload, you can see that it doesn't work. So if I say, let's say 8081 in here, and if I go back, so now 8080 doesn't work, and we have to access the application through 8081, and you can see that it works. Now you see this command right here, so kubectl port forward. So this actually works for other resources. So I could say, for example, here I can say pod /, and this works. And I could also say, for example, if I have a service, I could say service, and you're going to learn about services later, right? But if I run this, this is not going to work because it doesn't find the service hello world. But you can see that we can say service, we can say in here, so you've seen pod, we can say service, we can say daemon set, we can say basically any other resource. But by default, if you don't specify the resource type, it forwards to the pod named hello world. Again, this is only used for debugging purposes, and later I'm going to teach you about services, which is what you should be using to expose your pods.